We are giving away our power. But before we go there, before we clean our slate, I just want to welcome you to Soul Center on this glorious last Sunday before the new decade. Remembering we are part of the association, the Agape Association of Communities, an Agape affiliate, and that means that we, as I was just saying a moment ago, practice in the deliberate participation in the evolution of our human experience into a soulful expression of bliss and goodness and wellness and joy. It is our responsibility to take charge of this. That golden thread that we talk about from time to time, almost every time, that golden thread of wisdom and truth teachings that you find in the mystical realms of every religion, every indigenous teaching around the world, that golden thread that ties us to truth. And it ties us to the energy of our soul, because the energy of our soul is what connects us to the experience and the expression and the feeling and the knowingness of God as you. We are born in the image and likeness of God, which is a huge concept. We say that all the time. It is stated in Scripture. But what's your experience about that? How do you experience being born in the image and the very likeness of God? Because 90% of the time, most people are born in the image and likeness of their human experience of their parents. Their parents, which then we can turn around and start blaming, well, my parents didn't do this and my parents didn't do that. And we are having a dirty, dirty slate when we do that. Because as rough as it may seem, and I was just dealing with a client of mine the other day who was having a very challenging time, as many people do during the holidays. For some people during the holidays, it's a very challenging time because there's supposed to be this energy, this Christ-conscious Christmas energy, the season of miracles and light that brings us all together. But a lot of people don't experience that. They experience some of the trauma of their childhood or the dysfunction of their families. And some people, on a much more light note, might get together with a whole bunch of their family and tolerate each other. And they're just put on their best behavior and they be polite. And even though on the outside they're all like, yeah, on the inside they're like, and that is not taking control of your life. That is a human way to suppress your feelings and your emotions. And we know in our community, if we are going to start a clean slate, and as we're coming up on the new year, moving into a new decade, 2020, clarity, total divine clarity for this decade. And when you have total divine clarity, you are in like Flynn in your life. That is one of the keys to taking responsibility. And so she was having a really hard time because she had the experience growing up of being ostracized and kind of the black sheep of her family and criticized. And then things started to unfold as time went on because all of that ties to worthiness. And most people in this world have a worthiness issue and an abandonment issue. We've all been abandoned at one point, and we've all had self-loathing thoughts at one time, probably. Unless you're an ascended master sitting right here, then you've probably had one of those thoughts cross through your mind from time to time, or sometimes it happens and they don't cross through your mind. They're so buried in the subconscious, you don't even know they're there. So she was feeling a little blue and feeling a little sad and didn't know exactly why. And then she started to tell me a story about how somebody had offended her, and it really hurt her feelings, and she was going to cut them out of her life. And she's like, you know what, I don't deserve that kind of treatment, and I'm done with that person. They're done to me. Now, this was about the 10th time I had heard a story like this, where it's like, oh, and then this person's done, and they're out of my life, and this person's done, and they're out of my life, because I keep getting hurt. So you can see the pattern here, where you're just starting to shut doors, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself all by yourself if you keep shutting everybody out, because they have problems. And we know in our spiritual community, nobody has a problem. Now, granted, we all have our issues, and those are the things that we want to clean from our slate. We want to clean our slate, meaning we're cleaning our consciousness so that we can open up to something greater and grander in our lives. And it is a very humbling experience. So if you are to be a spiritual warrior, meaning that you will take responsibility for your life, and we're talking about the capital R responsibility. Responsibility does not have any blame in it whatsoever. It has no shame in it whatsoever. It has the responsibility of being observant and aware of how you feel about something, and then making choices and making changes through evocation and communion with Spirit to transcend and transmute those feelings. So she was determined. She kept trying to convince me how horrible these people were and their behaviors were, and wanting me to sign on. Oh my God, yeah, they're terrible. You should shut them out. And that would be the exact malpractice thing that I could participate in. No, that is not where we go in our spiritual teachings. In our spiritual teachings, we want to get further, deeper down. We want to let the feeling, we want the thread of the feeling to take us to the belief that is creating the pattern in our lives so that we can relinquish that. Now, we relinquish it by surrendering before the altar of the Almighty. We move into prayer. And as you've heard 100 or so times in any of our spiritual teachings, that prayer is a portal that takes us from the finite to the infinite. Prayer in the beginning stages is something that we use to transmute and to transcend the lower vibrational energies of the carnal world until we have transmuted and transcended to the degree that we no longer need it to as a portal, but as a way of life, where we live from that place, where we own who we are and what we are, and we transmute and transcend it. So I said, okay, I want you to know that there is a perfect blueprint. First of all, everybody here, we all know, most of you, a lot of you have taken my Divine Energy Medicine class, and we know, as stated in a lot of the new science, there is a perfect blueprint of your physical being, your physical, emotional, and mental being that exists right now. Over that blueprint, there's an overlay, a filter, with any of our traumas that goes on top of it. So one of those things could be, with eyesight. You have perfect eyesight, and over that is whatever. So if you have 20/20 eyesight, and then all of a sudden you go and maybe you buy into that thing, and as we get older, our eyes start to go, and then you get nearsighted or farsighted or whatever it is. And then there's an overlay, that filter of energy, that overlays on top of the perfect blueprint and creates the filter that now I have less than perfect vision. And that applies to just about every area of our lives. And if you are diligent and you are willing to put on your spiritual warrior cap and to transcend the world of illusion, the world of effects, then you can start to perform spiritual experiments and start to see, does this stuff really work? Does it really work? And I can tell you the answer is yes, but you gotta work it. You gotta own it. You gotta take responsibility. You gotta be aware of when you're blaming, and you gotta be aware of the little covert, insidious blaming that happens where we go out into the world and we sometimes say, oh yeah, but they're that, and they're this. And it's kind of like the little blames or the blamettes, where we kind of blame people for things or we accept things the way they are. So she was saying how she was really determined, and she was kind of heaven-bent on having this horrible experience with her family, or in this case, it was a friend in particular, that she was about to let go for the umpteenth disappointment in their relationship. And I said, well, let's just back up a second here. What if we go, because there's not only a perfect blueprint of your physical, emotional, and mental bodies, but there's a perfect blueprint of your body of affairs, and there's a perfect blueprint of every single relationship you have. So we want to go ahead and we want to first become aware, like, oh, okay, well, what is that perfect blueprint? What could this perfect blueprint possibly look like with so-and-so who irritates me to the moon and back? What could that possibly look like? We want to ask that question. We want to know what it is. And then we want to participate in the spiritual evolutionary unfoldment of what that looks like. We might not know what it looks like. If you've been deprived of a particular divine quality for an extended period of time, it becomes something that you're unfamiliar with. You're temporarily unfamiliar with. We all have a little bit of temporary amnesia when we enter the human field. When we enter into human bodies, we forget things. We forget that we're divine, eternal emanations of light, and we have to reclaim that. And you've heard me say it before, everybody is an ascended, transcended master. Every single person here, every person watching online, everybody on this planet is an ascended master. You have the mastery already coded and loaded within you. Your job is to access it, and your job is to clean the slate of what would prevent you from experiencing it. And that is the human experience. And so we move into that, and I said, okay, so there's a perfect blueprint of your relationship with so-and-so. Are you interested in experiencing it? She's like, well, you don't know so-and-so. And I was like, yes, but I do know that there's a perfect blueprint of a heavenly sacred relationship between the two of you. So just humor me. Let's explore this. And they said, and they're not spiritual though. They don't believe in all this prayer and meditation mumbo jumbo. And I said, it doesn't matter. Their soul does. Their soul knows all about it. And so, as you heard me say before, it doesn't take two to tango in spiritual evolution. It only takes one person to take dominion over their lives and say, I'm going to up-level this relationship and move into the field of when I rise, all unto me rise. As you rise, everyone around you will rise. So as you are diligent with your meditation and your prayer and your visioning, taking the life visioning class plug for coming up in a little bit, and I'm serious. This is Reverend Coco, she was one of the first people. She was in the original group of visioning for Agape. So she is the perfect person. But I was so honored when I said, would you do it for us? And she said, yes. So you really want to take advantage of this. It's not going to come along every year. So that aside, I said, are you interested in the perfect blueprint of this? And she said, well, again, you don't know who this is. I'm like, all right, we're going to transmute and transcend this. And I said, it's real simple. The best part of this is you don't have to get in front of the person because, it's very tempting. When the Bible talks about temptation and Jesus is sitting there and tempted by Satan and it's, get ye behind me. He's saying, get ye behind me. We know there's no Satan. We know that there is what we call negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts are generated by the trauma in our trauma bodies. And our job is to cleanse that. And when you cleanse it, the negative thoughts are gone forever for good. It's a very good experience to be liberated, truly liberated. And so I said, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go within. And again, this is the best part of it is you don't have to confront the people because the temptation is to go in front of the person and go, and even if we do it in a very delicate way or in a way that is, has the best intentions, a very diplomatic way, where I'm going to just really tell them how they hurt me. We run the risk of a blowout. And so when you talk from ego to ego, you run the risk of an explosion. And so the temptation would be like, I'm just going to tell them what I feel. And it's like, okay, well, before we get there, let's go into a place where we center. And we're going to go into prayer. We're going to do a prayer mudra. And we did our prayer where we brought ourselves into our higher self. And then we connect with the perfect blueprint of that relationship. These are the mudras associated with the consciousness that expresses in the relationship and through your lives. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start to channel by using divine awareness mudra. This one's done with your index fingers rising up and all your other fingers folded over. And when you're holding divine awareness mudra, you're connecting to the purest, highest sense of life force energy as it channels through you into the world, and it can't be tainted or inhibited by anything of the carnal world, any of your worries, doubts, or concerns. It is a higher vibration, so we move into that place and we bring our awareness to our heart center, and then as we're channeling that energy, we then extend the energy from our heart to the other person's heart. We extend an energetic invitation to that person, and we invite them to be in a relationship with me, with her in this particular instance, that is of the sacred and the most high, where mutual beneficial reverence and respect is experienced between the two of us, and we call them, we send an energetic invitation. Now, one of the key reasons that people don't get along or have discord or disharmony is because they feel excluded by the other person. I experienced this when I started my quest for spiritual awakening, when I had that mystical experience back in 2001. One of the first things I experienced was there was the spiritual people in my life and the not spiritual people in my life. Of course, we know that can't be true because everybody's spiritual. Not everybody behaves spiritual. What does that even mean anyway? It means that you take responsibility for your life and you choose to make sure that you get all the dust bunnies, you get all the crumbs within you that would create the illusion of separation, and you would rise into sacred, holy relationships with everything and everyone. And I will tell you, you will know you're on the way to divine illumination and spiritual mastery as all of your relationships come into harmony and mutual beneficial reverence, love, and respect. Now, I know there's some relationships out there that are going to try to tell me, well, but this one's really hard. Now, again, and I'm going to give the one caveat, if there's something that's of an abusive nature, we have ways to deal with that spiritually too. One of them is you first remove yourself, but it's a different kind of removing. It's not the same removing that she wanted to do. You're dead to me. No, that is creating separation, and that is creating judgment, and that is creating more pain and suffering. Removing, where it's like, okay, we're holy beings of light. I need to take myself out of the situation and step over here, and I'm not going to see you for a while, but I am going to hold you in a sacred holy light. And so we extend that beam of light from our heart center, and we invite that person to be in our lives in that particular way, in that way that is holy. And it might stretch our awareness, because we might not be able to see what that looks like. And this is the proper use of the imagination. When we go into the high vibrational frequencies of prayer and meditation, you're going to use the lens of your imagination to show you providential divine illumination. I can't even imagine what a healthy, mutually beneficial, cooperative, reverent, and respectful relationship would look like with so-and-so, but show me. Show me what that looks like. This is the proper use of our imagination, because oftentimes we're using our imagination in the absolute reverse. We're letting the trauma use our imagination. The trauma's going, well, I'm going to see them on Friday, and then they're going to do this, and then they're going to do that, and then we're going to have a big thing, or I'm going to have to bite my tongue, or we're going to have to be in a place where we suppress things, or we're going to come to punches. And it's like, that's the improper use of your imagination. To open your imagination to divine illumination is what we are seeking. And we want to do that with everything and everyone. So your homework assignment is to go home and make a list of every single person you know. Every person you've known from the time you were born till today. And then I'm going to invite you to extend an energetic invitation to all of them. You've got some time to do it. You might want to start with some of the easier ones. Some of the ones that are just really good. You can say, oh, okay, we're already got a really good groove. We got some good mojo. All right, I love you. More love, glory, greater glory. And then we're going to go ahead and get high on that. And we're going to move over to the... And we're like, oh God, we're really good. This is going to be a tough one. And it's not really that tough. It's so much easier when they're not in front of you, because you can just wait. Because what's going to happen, what's inevitably going to happen, if you don't clean it up in a divine, heavenly, beautiful way, it's going to come to you through someone else, or they're going to come back into your life somehow. And we want to clean that up. We want to clean the slate. And so, lo and behold, after we did this process, she's like, you're never going to believe what happened. She goes, so-and-so came back into my life. And I said, you know what? Now you have to remember, after we did the process, we have to also sign on to seek and ye shall find. You've got to be looking for the proof that what you're doing is actually yielding you the fruit of your labor, the fruit of your words. You want to make sure you're looking for it. Because this is where people thwart themselves. They call something forward, and then they go out and they're looking for the opposite. And we don't want to thwart our prayers. You don't put one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. You put both feet on the gas, and you're headed towards that super highway of heavenly delights, and you allow yourself to imagine. And you will accomplish more. You'll get more done in, I get you, 10 minutes. 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes max. You'll get more done to up-level and evolve your life, if you do that, than you would with 10 years of psychotherapy, 10 years of group therapy, 10 years of, I want to convince you, because convincing, I'll tell you, it's exhausting. Even when you finally feel like you did convince them, if it hasn't changed inside of you at a molecular structural level, then it's going to repeat itself at some point. So we want to go ahead and do that. Everybody should have received, now this is going to seem like a little bit of a segue here, but everybody should have received one of these papers. This is from a class I just recently taught, and as we're getting into the new year, this has, I just want you to be aware of it to take it home with you so that you can use it to most effectively connect your intention with your desire, and to know the difference between a goal and an intention and a desire. A desire, as we talked about it with capital D, is something that your soul is seeking to express. So there is a desire for a holy, sacred relationship with so-and-so, despite whatever has been. And if you want to clean your slate, you're going to make sure you erase all energetic connections to time and space, which mostly include the past. The past is a dirty, dirty bird that wants to grab us and tie us to time and space. It's like, and every time I feel that ball and chain or that cord of energy that seems like it's not relinquishing me from this pattern, it's because I've connected myself to time and space. The past, our beliefs about it, we carry it forward into the future, which creates the repetition pattern. So we want to be very clear. The capital D of desire is when you check in with your heart and soul. Now, some of us don't want to go there because we might be afraid of disappointment. I had a person, they were just absolutely terrified that because one of their ideas or one of their beliefs was that God's going to let me down. So then we back up a little bit. We back up and we cleanse the energy around. God can never let you down. The only thing in the universe that can let us down is ourselves by not cleansing and purifying. So we take responsibility and we start to do this. We understand the difference between a desire and a goal. Goals are very good. Goals are good. Goals are generally tied to time and space. And when you have a desire with an intention, and that fuels your goal in the time, earth, time, space, time continuum, that's a really good recipe, and you're working in lockstep with the law of creation. And the law of creation is one of the most magnificent things you will ever experience when you're clean, when your slate is clean. So we want to clean our slate, but don't think you have to wait till your slate is clean before you do anything, because you can do whatever it is right now. You can let it, like Reverend Michael says, you can be pulled by the vision, the call of your soul, which is what this exercise is helping you to get in touch with. What is the call of my soul? There's a lot of people out there, they don't know what the call of their soul is. Can you imagine that? It's just a kind of a funky thing. But we want to check in and get with the call of our soul, and we want to match when your thoughts, your words, and your deeds are on the same page. You have a recipe for holy success. And we want to make sure that our desire, our intention, and our goals are on the same page so that we're participating in that recipe for success. In her book, what's that book called? The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, Marie Kondo. She says, the place we live should be for the person we are becoming. The place we live should be for the person we are becoming, not the person we have been. So if you wanted to, bring in a little bit of feng shui and tidying up, you can see where we want to cleanse not only the physical, we can put an action behind it, but we want to cleanse in here first and foremost. You'll start to notice if you cleanse in here, all of a sudden out there starts to cleanse itself. It will cleanse itself, and I tell you, it is one of the most beautiful, magical experiences that you'll ever have in the human incarnation. So we want to participate in that. We want to participate in our own spiritual evolution. And like I said, your homework is to make that list of every single person. You can do it in chunks, you can do it over time, but eventually those things are going to come to rear their beautiful heads into your life anyway, so you might as well be spiritually proactive. Now, it doesn't apply to just relationships. It applies to everything, whatever it is, health and wellness. I want to connect with the perfect blueprint of wellness. What does that look like? I know I'm having a particular experience and a particular condition, but we want to transcend that information that ties us to the past. An energy that's going in a particular direction, in a particular fashion, we want to reroute that energy in a different direction and seek and find something else. Sometimes it takes a little more efforting, and that's why we lean into people that can hold a space. That's why in our community, we cultivate practitioners, spiritual practitioners, because they spend a minimum of 4 years cultivating a conscious awareness of how to transmute energy for the most benevolent and beautiful experience and outcome. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to encourage you. This is my free gift to you. You don't even have to sign up for this class, especially because it's not being offered yet. But it is something that I'm going to encourage you to just take a look at as we go on to the eve of this new decade, and also get very familiar with your desires and your intentions. Let's see, is there anything else? I think we covered a lot of ground here. And so if I were going to nutshell it, we want to reflect. Oh yes, we're going to bless the prayers. We do have extra ornaments outside, or maybe they were passed out already. Okay, we got some extra ornaments. So we're going to have that as we close out. But if I were going to nutshell this, we want to reflect, we want to release, and we want to rejoice into all of this by allowing ourselves to cleanse and purify the slate of our awareness. And so we're going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. Did everybody, have you filled out the ornaments, or do we need a moment to fill the ornaments out? So if everybody has one of these guys, I don't know if everybody, last week we did it, so the ones from last week are here. If you have an ornament, a piece of brown paper, on one side there's a prayer request that you would like to receive for yourself, and on the other side there is a blessing you would like to bestow on somebody else. If you have that filled out and ready to go, you can come up here and you can place it on the tree, or the trees. And as you do, we're going to move into our closing prayer. And as we move into our closing prayer, you're more than welcome to walk up during the prayer and place that ornament on the tree. I'm going to invite you to join me as we turn within once again. And whether you bring your hands into prayer mudra, or you just hold your consciousness in prayer mudra, we bring our awareness to the holy light of the divine. We take this moment and we deliberately acquiesce, we yield into a field of gratitude. Grateful to know that there is a good, a bliss, a grace, a beauty beyond our wildest dreams, an intelligence that governs the universe, that loves us beyond our wildest dreams. We open into that field. We open into a field of knowing that that divine power, that omniamorous, all-loving strength that is everywhere in the furthest reaches of the farthest galaxies to the closest, most intimate recesses of our bones and tissues, that resides with a perfect blueprint of our beingness, as the ray of light is to the sun, as the drop of water is to the ocean. We, created in the image and likeness of God, we have everything we need to humbly and joyfully reside and exude in this energy. So each one of us in this moment, we turn to the perfect blueprint of radiant wellness. We turn to the perfect blueprint of divine cooperation. We turn to the perfect blueprint of love and joy and kindness and generosity, of prosperity. We turn to the effulgent blueprint of ever-expanding good within our beingness. And we allow ourselves to remember the truth of our divine nature, and to remember the truth of everybody else in our lives' divine nature. There is a divine nature beyond our personalities, beyond our traumas. We surrender our trauma. We surrender erroneous ideas and beliefs, and we open to the truth. We choose to see with God's eyes and to hear with God's ears, and to know with the mind of God. We surrender into this field, and we allow ourselves to remember what it's like to be in the world, but not of the world. We choose to experience heaven on earth, blessing everything and everyone, and that our thoughts and our words and our deeds, our desires, our intentions and goals are all in alignment with the call of the soul. We choose this, we give it permission, we invite it, we evoke it, and we allow it. We allow it to have its way to and through and as every molecule from every dimension of every incarnation that has ever been, transcending time and space. And we ground heaven on earth. We ground goodness on earth. We ground divine cooperation on earth. We ground love, peace, and self-love and wellness on earth through us. And as we prepare to move into this new decade, we allow the divine to go before us and make the crooked path straight. And we allow the energy of redemption and purification to go behind us and return the years the locusts have eaten. We choose to rise up into a greater and grander vision and version of our lives than ever before. Glory to greater glory, good to greater good, love to more love, wellness to more wellness. We let it be. We let it be. We claim it so. We proclaim it. We declare it from a place of thanksgiving, knowing it is already done. The perfect blueprint already exists in the mind of God. And it's from a place of thanksgiving and devotion. We release this prayer into the law. We allow it to fulfill itself. We claim it. We own it. We benevolently and elegantly allow it. So it is. Amen. 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 Ashe. Shalom. Hotep. And hallelujah. The ushers are coming forward. That's what they're doing. All right. Ushers and prayers are coming forward. If you have any more prayers you want to put on the tree, we do have a process that will be taking place for all these prayers. And as the ushers come forward and as we move into our sacred time of tithing, participating in the perfect blueprint of circulation and effulgent dynamic prosperity, knowing you can't outgive God, that there is a fount of prosperity that includes not only financial freedom, but love and joy and wellness and goodness. And at this particular moment, we take a moment as we prepare our tithe, our offering, knowing that the vision for Soul Center is to have our perfect forever home and our perfect sanctuary with the gardens and the fountains and the best sound system and the most beautiful high-tech classrooms and all good. We allow ourselves to be open vessels, open receptacles to receive that good, knowing God is our source and our supply. And as we participate in circulation, we allow that which we give to come back to us multiplied minimally 100 times. We are truly grateful for this, and as we prepare our offerings, we let it be good, we let it be now. Thank you, ushers, as you go forward. Amen.